And joining our discussion now is Ben Rhodes, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Obama and an MSNBC political analyst. And Ben, let's listen to what the leading Republican presidential candidate, Joe Biden's chief critic, had to say about this last night.
I'll never forget that Bibi Netanyahu let us down. That was a very terrible thing. I will say that. And so when I see sometimes the intelligence, you talk about the intelligence or you talk about some of the things that went wrong over the last week, they've got to straighten it out because they're fighting potentially a very big force. They're fighting potentially Iran. 2 nights ago, I read all of Biden's security people. Can you imagine? National defense people. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart.
Ben Rhodes, Hezbollah is very smart. That's the Republican candidate's position.
I mean, look, Lawrence, I think the astonishing worst circumstances imaginable is he has no response to what's actually happening. It's just about him. You know, he's referencing some past disagreement he had with Netanyahu. He's trying to, I guess, show off by talking about Hezbollah being smart. These are, terrorists with thousands of rockets pointed at Israel. What's truly scary to consider, though, is that he wants to be president again. And having someone with that absence of any depth of feeling or knowledge or strategy for how you would deal with a war that risks escalating in the Middle East, a war in Ukraine. I mean, he just proves every time he opens his mouth how unfit he is to make judgments about this and how much he doesn't really seem to care about the awful human toll that we've all been absorbing these last several days.
If any Democratic member of Congress had said those words, Republicans would be immediately calling to expel that person from the House or the Senate. No Republicans are rising to contradict their leading presidential candidate on this. What do you think the feeling is in the Israeli government when they're facing what they're facing now and they hear Donald Trump say this? And I know how busy they are with more important things at the moment than what Donald Trump says. But 2 years from now, what Donald Trump says could be more important to them if he somehow wins the Electoral College again.
Well, I mean, I think what they're learning is essentially that Trump is no real friend. Trump is someone who says what he has to say to serve his own interests. Trump is somebody that is performative when he feels that he needs to be about support for Israel. But Trump is also someone, bear in mind, who says insane things like this. He's also someone who has dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Kanye West and Holocaust deniers. He's someone who has empowered virulent forms of far-right anti-Semitism in this country. And if you look at Joe Biden, someone who's disagreed a lot with Bibi Netanyahu over the years, but in the darkest hour in Israel's history, Joe Biden was there and he was solid. And, the past disagreements did not color how he approached it. He approached it from a perspective of humanity and national interest, whereas Donald Trump cannot summon that humanity and doesn't care about the national interest. He just cares about himself.
When the president sent the Secretary of State to Israel, it seemed like a standard move. It's out of the standard playbook. And I guess my expectation was something standard. What I saw today with Secretary Blinken in Israel was something extraordinary, something unlike I've ever seen with a Secretary of State in Israel.
Yeah, well, Tony Blinken's been a close friend of mine for a long time, and he can be a very reserved person. He doesn't wear his feelings on his sleeves very much. Part of his strength is his kind of extraordinary discipline. But if you know him, you know that his own family's story, his own family's history in the Holocaust is something that entirely motivates him, entirely has informed his choice to be in public service, to be in foreign policy. So the clip you played earlier, that's the person that I've seen behind closed doors. That's the person who has a tremendous depth of empathy and is, again, very shaped by the trauma that his family went through and overcame to achieve extraordinary things. And so I just think the world saw the person that a lot of us have come to know over the years.